Chapter 11, Session 2, System Status. Ben's consciousness returned not to the dusty, sun-baked dig site, but to an endless, silent void that seemed to stretch beyond the reaches of his mind. He found himself floating weightlessly in a vast, dark expanse, devoid of any visible boundaries. The darkness was profound and all-encompassing, like the deepest part of an ocean. Suddenly, thin streaks of light, resembling ethereal glowing threads, began to weave themselves around him, creating an intricate and delicate tapestry. This luminous network gradually formed into a transparent, holographic interface that hovered in the air. Before him, a keyboard materialized, shimmering into existence with an otherworldly glow. Its keys glowed softly, adorned with strange alien characters that pulsed with a mysterious, captivating energy. He felt the familiar presence of his AI companion. Keats, what do you make of this? Keats's connection was faint, distorted. Hmm. Hang on. Stabilizing. I'll get back to Earthly. Ben waited, adrift. He looked down and saw his own body, his own clothes, perfectly rendered in this space of nothingness. The ship had projected him as he was. Ben, Keats's voice crackled, now clear and sharp. I've been communicating with the ship. It identified you immediately from the marker in your genome. That marker, it's a passcode, an authorized user key. Ben, how is this possible? Who placed it there? Why me? Ben thought, the same question echoing in his own mind. What is so special about me? Ben, Keats continued, a new urgency in its tone. I am fully synced with the ship now, but my abilities are dwarfed by its programming. The entire operational language is alien. I've been trying to build a translator, but it will take time. As Keats spoke, the strange symbols on the virtual keyboard flickered and resolved, shifting into the familiar characters of the English language. A deep, resonant voice, ancient and powerful, filled the void around Ben. It was not a sound, it was a thought delivered directly into his consciousness. Greetings, descendant. There is no need for translation. You do not need to type. I can hear your thoughts. Ben was awestruck, his 10 million questions momentarily silenced by the sheer presence of this alien intelligence. The first words that finally tumbled out of his mind were not about the mission, but about himself. Why me? He thought. Why do I have this marker in my genes? Because you are of the bloodline of Anya. Sharma, Mission Specialist 7, the ship replied. Your genetic key grants you access to the archives. It is your inheritance. Perhaps it is best if I show you. The dark abyss around Ben dissolved. The void was replaced by a sleek, clean, oval-shaped room, the walls glowing with a soft internal light. Tools and gadgets he couldn't comprehend hummed softly in every corner. Scientists dressed in strange, beautiful, functional outfits moved with a quiet purpose. The air smelled real. The scene was real. This is where your marker was first encoded. The ship's voice narrated, now a calm guide in his ear. This is a memory from 52,000 of your years in the past. It took place on the vessel you call the ship, shortly before its arrival at your planet. This is crazy, Ben whispered, his jaw slack. You were light years ahead of us, even back then. Ben took a deep mental breath. The first session had felt like a chaotic dream. This felt direct, real. How? He projected. How am I seeing this? Is this just a video file from the ship's memory? You are not watching a file, the ship replied, the concepts flowing into Ben's mind with perfect clarity. You are rendering data. Your ancestral memory is the code. Your consciousness is the processor. The quantum field is your display. Ben struggled to grasp the scale of it. My display? Like a computer screen inside my head? Correct, the ship affirmed. Your biological form is a natural transceiver, capable of imprinting intention onto the field and receiving data from it. It is the observer that collapses the wave. This was the first and most important discovery of your ancestors. However, the signal is weak, distorted by echoic noise. This vessel and the larger apparatus you call the pyramid were designed to amplify that signal and filter the noise, allowing for a coherent, stable connection. You are not merely watching a memory, descendant. You are co creating the experience in real time. A wave of understanding washed over Ben, so profound it almost buckled his virtual knees. He wasn't just a visitor, he was a participant. The ship paused, allowing him to absorb the information. Now that you understand the nature of the interface, the ship continued, let us proceed to your deeper question. What for? Let me show you the purpose. The flicker wavered. Suddenly the light was engulfed by static. Ben could feel the vibration in his teeth. Words rose and broke apart. The seed remembers Ishtar. The echo calls to Esther. Ben quietly repeated the names to himself, hoping for a response. Ishtar? Esther? What? What do you mean? Ben struggled to grasp the ship's explanation, felt disoriented. The ship interrupted his confusion and resumed from where he had paused. The first question was why you? The ship stated. The answer lies with your ancestor, Anya. But your deeper question is, what for? Let us begin there. Let me show you the purpose. The Golden Age. The sterile white lab of Ben's vision dissolved like a smokescreen, replaced by the breathtaking reality of the Giza Plateau 52,000 years in the past. He was looking through Anya's eyes, standing on a gentle rise, the air crisp and clean under a cool summer sun. Before them, the Great Pyramid stood in all its intended glory. It was not the sandy, weathered monument of his time, but a perfect, gleaming machine. Its casing stones were a polished, brilliant white that seemed to glow from within, and the entire structure hummed with a barely audible, resonant power. The surrounding grounds were not a desert, but a lush tropical parkland, steaming with life. Strange, flying, silent objects zipped across the sky, and below, scientists and technicians, in the now familiar silver tunics, moved with quiet purpose amongst tools and machines Ben couldn't begin to comprehend. At the foot of the pyramid, near its northern face, stood four different sized machines of polished black stone, waiting silently. This was not an inauguration. Ben sensed a palpable tension in the air. This was a critical operation. On a nearby hill, a man, the maestro, raised a hand, and a shimmering virtual interface appeared in the air before him. Through Anya's eyes, Ben saw her do the same, her own interface appearing as a translucent display screen showing the status of the four machines. The maestro looked toward her and the other members of her team, scattered around the plateau. Anya gave a sharp affirmative nod. The maestro's hand dropped, tapping a virtual key. A subtle hum began, and the four machines lifted from the ground on articulated legs, moving with a strange, silent, robotic grace. One by one, they entered the pyramid. Anya's display tracked them. The smallest descended into the subterranean chamber. The next ascended to the queen's chamber. The third found its place in the king's chamber. The largest and most complex of the four unfolded in the grand gallery, its appendages locking into the grooves of the walls, caressing the inner surfaces. Anya's display focused on the subterranean machine. It began to emit a deep, low pitched hum that Ben could feel in his own bones, even through the connection. Lines of light etched across the machine glowed white, then amber, then settled on a deep, powerful red. The ship's voice filled Ben's mind, a calm narrator explaining the impossible. Grounding the planetary root, the ship's voice narrated in his mind. Stabilizing the lithospheric mantle at the Muldara frequency. Next, the machine in the Queen's chamber began to hum at a higher pitch, its lights cycling to a vibrant, creative orange. Then the machine in the Grand Gallery activated, its hum a perfect, universal harmony that seemed to balance the other two, its light a clear, expressive blue. The stone slabs of the antechamber shifted, tuning the vibrations with micrometer precision. Finally, the machine in the king's chamber, stretched between the vent shafts, began its ascent, its hum peaking into a piercing crystalline note. Its lights cycled through the entire spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, before settling on a brilliant, crown like violet. A plasma like energy field formed around it, pulsing, before erupting upwards through the very capstone of the pyramid. The capstone itself, Ben realized, was a machine. It focused the energy into a single, blindingly white star of light. Then, in a sudden, silent implosion, the star burst, sending a thin, shimmering sheet of pure energy blanketing the entire planet. The energy sheet now interacts with the global resonance nodes, the ship explained. Each site will shape the field according to its geometry and function. You call this sacred geometry. Anya's display screen shifted, showing a satellite view of Baalbek, a swirling spiral vortex, a maelstrom of light and energy, formed over the megalithic platform, funneling the energy from the sky into the ground with immense gravitational pressure. Site 2 is coherent, Anya stated, her voice calm, focused. The display jumped. Stonehenge. Here the vortex was different. The circular design of the stones caused the energy to twist inward, forming a magnificent double helix of light and sound that spiraled above the central trilithion, like the very code of life being written into the landscape. Site 3 is coherent. Machu Picchu. The energy did not spiral, it flowed. Like a river of light, it cascaded down the pristine terraces, following the natural curvature of the land in a dazzling serpentine vortex that carved its way up the mountainside. Site 4 is coherent. Finally, the display landed on Gobekli Tepe. Here, the energy did not move, it coalesced. It stabilized. Above the strange T shaped pillars, the cosmic energy took on a distinct shimmering shape, the double crown, the Shent, alive, in motion, and glowing with an unassailable authority. It was the anchor point. Planetary harmony achieved, the ship's voice declared. Ben stared, transfixed, a profound realization dawning in his mind. He whispered the thought, and Anya's lips moved with his. It's not random. Each sight is a lens. They don't just receive the energy, they shape it. Correct, the ship confirmed. The planetary network is not a monologue from Giza. It is a symphony. Each site plays its unique instrument. Only Gobekli the crown, holds the energy in the symbol of perfect unity. So that's why, Ben thought, the puzzle pieces of his own world shaping into place. Why later civilizations carved that crown onto their temples. Because it was real, not symbolic, cosmic. Ben then had the thought that would change his understanding forever. The precision, the math, it's all here. Pi, the golden ratio, the speed of light, it's all encoded in the very dimensions of this structure. It's like they were building a time capsule. Were they leaving a message for the future? The vision of Giza dissolved instantly. Ben found himself standing not in the ancient past, but in a place intimately familiar to his 21st century mind, the control room of a nuclear power plant. Alarms blared silently, and engineers in hard hats rushed past him, their faces grim. On a massive screen, he saw complex coolant flow calculations alongside blueprints for a turbine generator. He recognized the math instantly, the golden ratio in the turbine spiral, the precise formulas for neutron moderation. A thought flashed in his mind, clear as a bell. They aren't carving poetry here. These numbers aren't a monument to mathematics. They are the bare minimum requirements. The plant must obey these principles, or it melts down. It's not a message, it's the instruction manual. No, it's the laws of physics the machine must follow to even exist. The nuclear plant vanished, and Ben was back in the silent void, the truth of the vision settling over him with profound weight. The ship's voice returned, not as a lecturer, but as a confirmer of a truth Ben had discovered himself. These numbers aren't poetry carved in stone. They're the bones holding up the temple, the machine's heartbeat. As your nuclear plant must obey the laws of physics to harness an atom, this apparatus must perfectly obey the laws of universal resonance to harmonize a planet. The constants are not a message left for you. The pyramid is a machine built from them. What? What did this accomplish? Ben asked, his mind struggling to comprehend. The planetary core was unstable. A global resonance network was required to create a coherent environment suitable for long term colonization. Giza was a primary conduit at the center of Earth's land mass. You activated the planet's chakra system, Ben exclaimed in a flash of insight. The ley lines, they're real. That is the closest analogy your current language can provide, the ship confirmed. There is still much to show you. Once planetary harmony was achieved, The apparatus could be used for its secondary function, individual consciousness alignment. Ben's heart was beating erratically. It was too much. Too soon. The flood of information, the sheer cosmic scale of the truth, was more than his 21st century brain could handle. The breathtaking vision dissolved into a firestorm of static. Outside the cockpit, the data stream from the ship didn't just stop, it vanished. The monitors displaying Ben's neural telemetry, which had been a chaotic storm of activity, went completely flat. Signal lost, Inanna stated, her voice tight with alarm. Kalen was already moving toward the ship's sealed door. Is he? She was cut off by a soft, pneumatic hiss that echoed in the tense silence of the shaft. With a sound like a held breath being released, the seamless cockpit door slid open. Kalen and Inanna rushed forward, their boots ringing on the metal floor. They found Ben slumped in the neuro interface chair, his face pale and slack, the stone on the armrest now dark and inert. Just as Kalen reached for his pulse, Ben's eyes flew open. He was back in the underground shaft, gasping for air he couldn't find. The first words that tore from his throat were a strained cry to a stunned Kalen and Inanna. I know, he choked out, his eyes wild. I know who built the pyramids. And why? And then his world went black as he collapsed to the floor.